What's up everyone, Developer Gus here. Time to make your images look absolutely sick with some CSS magic. We're going to learn how to add borders, change shapes, resize images, and make them look way more professional. So first things first, we need an image to work with. I'm going to grab an image I already have, but you can use a JPEG image, a PNG image. Actually, PNG works way better on a browser. So we want to save that image in our images folder and name it small-profile. So what I'm going to do is copy and paste this image I already have inside of my images folder. And it's just an image of a Lamborghini car. You can use whatever image you want. And let's change the name of this image to be small-profile. Although when you're working professionally building a website, you should name the image what the image is about, obviously. This is for SEO and accessibility purposes. So in actuality, I would name this something like Lamborghini Black with yellow highlight, something like that, right? But for now, we're all gonna have the same name, small-profile. And let's close this image. So now that we've already added an image to the images folder, I already cleaned up my index.html file and my styles.css file. Let's actually remove all this because there's no heading tag here anymore. So let's add the image tag with a source attribute with a value of, we go into our images folder and get the small profile image with an extension of JPEG. Another attribute is alternate, the alternate attribute with a value of describing the image. So in this case, it would be Lamborghini black car, okay, or sports car. All right. So a couple of things to note here. This is the source attribute. This tells the browser where to find your image. So that's why we need this attribute to actually link the image from the images folder with the correct name in our index.html file, because this is where we want to show it. Oh, I forgot to spell this correctly, and now it's showing up on my browser that I have in Visual Studio Code. And the other attribute that I want to talk to you about is the alternate text attribute. This is very important for SEO, search engine optimization purposes, and for accessibility purposes. For accessibility, the reason is that screen readers use this attribute to describe images to people who can't see them. So people that may be blind or have some other accessibility issue, or the screen readers are going to read this value and tell the person what this image is about because they can't see the image, or for other accessibility purposes, right? Another thing to note is always use relative paths to the image file. So like we just used right here, what we wouldn't do is you go into our C folder if I was using a Windows computer and do something like C Gustavo desktop images. We don't want to do that. We want to always provide a relative path. So right now we're in the index.html file. We want to go into the images folder and get that image file name and add it right here to link that image to the source attribute, which is being used on the image element. Okay, so once you add this image tag with those attribute values, you're going to be able to see your image over here on the right side. Okay, so now we're going to style the image. what I'm going to do is add the image selector. So we're selecting all images. I'm going to add a border 2 pixels solid red, a border radius of 20 pixels, and a width of 200. As you can see, it's much smaller now. So once you save this and refresh your browser, you'll be able to see this image. And if you're using Visual Studio Code, how I use this browser inside of Visual Studio Code is with an extension which is called the Live. Yeah, the Live Preview extension. And then you just go to your index.html file and go to Show Preview. Click that. It'll show it on the right side. So the border property, the border CSS property has a value of 2 pixels. So we're giving it a border of 2 pixels of size, a solid value. So it's a thick and continuous line of border. You could also do dotted. Yeah, a dotted would be the other one. So now the border is dotted, and there's plenty of other values you can add here. And of course, there's plenty of values for the color. You can do whatever you want. Green, change this back to solid. And this is a shorthand way to provide a border to any element. So you could actually, the old way would be to provide border dash color, green, border, style, solid, and border width of 2 pixels. So you could actually delete this and it'll still work. But why bother writing all that if you can just use the shorthand way? The other CSS property we added is the border radius. So what this does is it rounds the corners. Let's change this value to 10. So now the borders aren't that round. You could give it a value of a percentage, like 100%. It's not going to be totally circular because the width is different from the height. So obviously it's not going to be totally circular, the image. So if you want it completely round, you would need to provide also the height, but it distorts the image, obviously. And now it's completely circular. So let's remove this height. Or actually, I'm going to tell you that height is always going to be height auto. So the CSS property by default for any element is auto. So you don't have to write this. It's going to be like that. And the last CSS property we added was the width and the value of 200 pixels. So if we didn't provide that, it's going to be very big by default because that's the size of the image, right? I don't know if this tells me the size. No. Or did it? Oh yeah, it's 1000 by 783. It says right here at the bottom. So we need to change that. Obviously, we're not going to show. If we're on a desktop, we would show the image as 1000 pixels, but right now we don't want to do that. Okay, so if you provide another image tag, let's just copy and paste this. Now we have 2 Lamborghinis. Both images get the exact same styling automatically. That's the power of CSS. You write once the CSS and it styles everything because you're selecting all images, of course. So go ahead if you want and play around with this. Add more CSS properties, change the values however you want. Like, let me show you something. I'm going to try to make the images be responsive. So for mobile, tablet, I'm going to change this to 100%. And then I'm going to provide a max width of 200 pixels. Or you know what, let's make it 300 or 400 pixels. And now if we make the browser smaller, they are responsive. They get smaller as the desktop browser becomes smaller. That's what I mean by responsive. These images could be used on mobile because they are now gonna be smaller for a mobile sized phone, obviously. And if you want to be able to see this on your browser, all you have to do is go to the three dots over here in Google Chrome, go to More Tools, and then click on Developer Tools, or you can just right-click anywhere, click Inspect, and it's also going to show up. You can make sure to select the correct element you're trying to play around with, and just change the values. Since this is the CSS selector and properties we added inside of the styles.css file, this applies to all the images, obviously. So if I change the border color, it's going to change it for all the images. So this is just the beginning of image styling. Later, we'll learn about CSS classes so you can have different styles for different images on the same page. Imagine having some images circular, some with thick borders, some with shadows, all controlled by CSS. Drop a like if this helped make your images look better, and let me know in the comments what kind of image effects you want to learn next. Keep coding, and I'll see you in the next one.